My name is Sari van Pooyen, and I'm the Director of Team Agility and Intact Academy. In Team Agility, we're specialized in agile business innovation. And what we do is we help businesses innovate more quickly than their products so that they're on time to market. I've been doing that for a long time, even before agile became a trend word, and I do it all over the world. So I help multinationals, family businesses, small businesses to develop in an innovative way. In Intact Academy, we train coaches and consultants to innovate business. So I have training programs in many, many different countries. You can find all this information on intactacademy.com or teamagility.com. Now, these last months, actually 2 years, I've been making blogs and vlogs to transfer my knowledge after 35 years of being in the business and traveling the world and working with many, many different leaders and businesses. One of the things that fascinates me at the moment is how are we going to take care of re-entry after Corona or even during Corona? At the moment here in Holland, we've been through a period of infection. We're actually expecting a second wave of infection. But in the meantime, we're slowly reopening businesses and restaurants and theaters in a very controlled manner. So for instance, in the theaters now, you can have 30 people. They're checked beforehand, temperature taken, face masks on, enjoying a show. I can visit my mother now in the care home for half an hour, temperature taken, face mask on. So slowly we're reopening, and we're also at the same time preparing to close again because there is an expectation of a second wave. The reason it's being expected is as the government has let go of the imposing of guidelines, they've given the responsibility to us as citizens to maintain our distancing, to maintain our face masks, to maintain reasonable guidelines to prevent infection. Because of these guidelines, I find the interesting thing that we have less corona, but we also have less deaths because of other causes. So I was speaking to a doctor the other day, and he was telling me that because of all the measures we've taken, we have under death. They call it under death statistically. There should be more deaths in this time. One of the things we're really fearful of, though, is how do we reintroduce people after a pandemic? How do we take care of that reentry? I don't really have any answers yet, but I have a lot of thoughts and questions and ponderings about this. One of the things that I notice is that managers really have had to change their leadership style. So leaders have had to change their style. Because people were working from home, they were forced to trust. And this forced to trust is something that should have happened a long time ago. This paradigm shift from command and control to trust and relationship is one I've been advocating for a very long time. But when they come back into the business, the question is, are they going to be able to maintain this trust? What we know from research is that most people leave or derail because of their bad relationship with their leader, because of a relationship with a leader where the leader doesn't trust. So will this mean, if people actually shift paradigm, that people will work harder and longer for one person? And what does that mean in the long run? In the past 20 years, we've seen an acceleration of job hopping. Maybe now we'll see a deceleration, and that means that people will stick to their boss and maintain loyalty, build up more knowledge. Maybe that's a good thing. The other thing that's interesting to me is that during this time of at-home work, we've all had to work with Teams or Zoom or any other platform that's virtual. What I've seen with a lot of leaders is that they really don't know how to use the platform. So just yesterday, I had a leader who was saying to me, it's so boring. What do you do? I just talk to the camera. I have an agenda beforehand and we work the agenda, but people are missing the relationship. I use Zoom in a very different way because I actually do what I usually do, which is connect through the camera, extend my energy. I do fun things during meetings on Zoom. I call in my yoga teacher to give yoga exercises every 2 hours. Last time I had a DJ on board who played music during every break, and we were dancing in the living room, all of us together. So there's many, many ways you can use Zoom in a different way, virtual working. It's much easier to call in experts from all over the world to teach your team. You don't have to wait anymore. You can just contact someone and say, hey, could you speak to my team for an hour? It's much easier than it used to be. So, I hope people start to be playful in our virtual working. That would make our lives much more fun and easier. The other thing I really wonder about is that with this virtual working, we've actually entered into people's homes. So right behind me, it's not, you can see my home office at the moment. It's actually interesting that this balance between home and work has shifted because this virtual curtain, this iron curtain that there used to be between home life and work life has dissipated. Because now sometimes I Zoom with my clients who are top leaders in organizations, and their children suddenly run by and ask, for milk and cookies, as it were, or their dog starts barking in the background, or we have a conversation about the art on the wall. And this has meant that I have been able to meet my clients in a much more personal way, where my work is very personal. But I'm thinking that all of these colleagues now know their colleagues in a very different way than they did before. And I'm wondering what's going to happen to that. I'm hoping it's going to stay. Because honestly, we usually 5 days a week, we work 8, 9, 10 hours with these people. This difference between work and private life is really a construct. It's not true. So I'm hoping that some of this relational intimacy will stay. We may have had physical distancing, but hopefully we'll keep the social intimacy. The other thing I'm concerned, this is really a concern of mine, is onboarding. So in some areas and some countries, we've had people who have had the illness or who have had loved ones who have been ill, or people who have died. In some places in Holland now, in the province of Brabant, most people know someone who's been ill or who has died. So people have been through traumatic times where they've had loved ones being sick very quickly, die in isolation, not being able to say goodbye. So what does this mean when you try to reintegrate these people into your workforce? All of us, in some way or other, even people who haven't been ill or who have had, or people who haven't had people who've died, we've been through traumatic times. All of us have had to decide, who's part of our clan. That we've all had income loss, except the people who were bounty hunters in war, we call them here in Holland. So how do you reintegrate people who have been through trauma? This means, I think, that we have to pay much more attention as coaches to teaching leaders to deal with people, one, to deal with working virtually, to trust, and to deal with people with trauma. So I've got the questions. I'm going to think about it, and I'll come back with answers in my next blog.